Today, it's an absolute honor to welcome Dr. Lobsang Yangtso to this conversation. Dr. Lobsang is a distinguished academic and environmental research, currently serving as the Program and Environment Coordinator for the International Tibet Network. Born in Tibet and educated in India, she completed her PhD from Jawaharlal University with a pioneering thesis on China's environmental security policies in Tibet and their implications for India. Her research spans critical themes such as climate change, change in Himalayan region, water security, and the environmental impacts on major transboundary rivers like Brahmaputra, Vishu, and Upper Mekong. Beyond her academic contributions, she has been a powerful advocate for the rights of indigenous and local communities and has constantly worked to ensure Tibetan voices are included in global climate discourse, especially through her active engagement in COP meetings. Dr. Lobsang also brings a strong commitment to mentorship and education, supporting young Tibetan students and participating in global programs that advance nonviolent conflict resolution and human rights. Dr. Lobsang, ma'am, thank you for joining us. It's a privilege to speak with you today.
Thank you, Shubham, for having me.
Okay, ma'am. Ma'am, as we all know, Tibet, often referred to as the third pole due to its vast ice reserve, plays a critical role in the environmental and water security of Asia. As the source of many of the continent's major rivers, including Brahmaputra, the Yangtze, and the Upper Mekong, Tibet's ecosystem are deeply intertwined with the livelihoods and of millions downstream. With your academic foundation rooted in environmental security and your extensive research on the implications of China's policy in Tibet, particularly related to climate change and water resources, your insights have become vital in understanding the complex intersection of ecology, geopolitics, and indigenous rights. My question to you, ma'am, is that your research has constantly emphasized the environmental vulnerabilities of Tibet. How do China's infrastructural projects like dams and water diversion on rivers such as Brahmaputra and Upper Mekong impact the ecological and geopolitical stability of the region?
Yes, first, I would like to say that, first, when we talk about Tibet or Tibetan Plateau, in terms of climate change, in terms of, the temperature rise, Tibet is very sensitive with the climate change because at the Tibetan Plateau, the temperature are rising faster than 3 times faster than the rest of the world. So because of that, there is a huge, impact on the glaciers, which are also become the sources of the, major rivers that comes from Tibet. On top of that, we see that China is carrying out major infrastructure developments like mega dam development and mining in Tibet as well. So with that, there has been lots of studies and shown that these impacts have activities have impacted on the water resources that are dependent on the not only the Tibetans but millions of people downstream. So with that, I think it's very, very important to understand why Tibetan Plateau is very critical and why Tibetans are frontline of the climate change. Because when we look at the international community, everyone talks about clean energy, green economy, but the kind of development policy that China is bringing in Tibet, it does not really, have a positive impact on the Tibetan people. On top of that, it has a huge impact on the Tibet's ecosystem, and that leads to implication and significant impact on the downstream communities as well.
Yes, ma'am. Very well explained. Thank you, ma'am. So, ma'am, my next question is, like, as the root of the world, Tibet holds immense significance in global climate dynamics, yet it remains largely underrepresented in international environmental discourse. As you have been a regular presence at COP meeting, how receptive have international climate platforms been towards incorporating Tibetan environmental concerns, and what challenges do you face in ensuring Tibetan representation in these global discussions?
Yeah. So your first question regarding how Tibet, Tibetan Plateau is important for the whole global climate change, issues, or in terms of preserving the climate change, is that Tibet has landscape of huge grassland. And this grassland helps to compact climate change because it absorbs the carbon dioxide. And so that is one issue. And the second, Tibet has a permafrost. Permafrost meaning the land which has been frozen for really long. And these permafrost also absorbs the carbon dioxides, and that helps to mitigate the climate change or the global warming. So, but then in reality, so when I attend the UN climate change conferences, or attend the international water related conferences, we have to understand that right now Tibet is an illegal occupied nation. Thus, we don't have an official representation at the United Nations. Thus, Tibetans are not included in the global climate change negotiation or global climate change discussions. So that is one case. And the second, when my experience of attending few COP meetings is that um, they're very, as compared to previous 6 7 years, the international community's understanding and awareness on Tibet has improved, but they really don't have enough courage to speak about the Chinese infrastructure development, Chinese the so-called clean energy projects like solar power projects, on Tibet, and how it impacts on the Tibetan people, because Tibetan people are not included in the whole climate discussion, as well as they are not included in the climate change policy making in Tibet as well.
It's quite sad that despite the critical role Tibet plays in water security across Asia, it often finds itself marginalized in international policy frameworks.
Yes.
I mean, this is not done well.
Yeah, because it's also to understand how colonialism functions when it comes to climate change, and it comes to the impact of preserving the whole environment. So when there is colonialism, the people's participation is completely missing in the whole picture, right? So that is, I think, for me, the basic understanding why things are happening in inside Tibet. Yeah.
Yes, man. Thank you for those insights, man. It's clear that environmental issues in Tibet are deeply tied not just to climate policy, but also questions of sovereignty, identity, and representation. And speaking of Tibetan identity, spiritual leadership has long been a cornerstone of the Tibetan struggle and cultural resilience. So my next question is, like, given the historical and spiritual importance of Dalai Lama's office, rooted in over 600 years of recognized reincarnations, beginning with Gaden group and formalized through the Gaden Podren institution, how might the Dalai Lama's recent assertion in the book titled Voice for the Voiceless that the new Dalai Lama will be born in the free world, so that the traditional mission of the Dalai Lama will continue, impact the geopolitical and cultural tensions surrounding succession, particularly in light of the China's claims over the reincarnation process. And he has previously said on only that he could reincarnate outside Tibet, possibly in India, where he lives in exile. So what are your thoughts on this, ma'am?
Yes, I think this is a very, very important issue right now when it comes to Tibet, because His Holiness Dalai Lama is turning 90 years in this year's July 6th. And so there has been a discussion among various stakeholders in terms of the reincarnation process. But it is also important to understand that China is already making plans, saying that they will do the the selection of the 15th Dalai Lama, which is completely rejected by the Tibetan community, Tibetan people, and His Holiness the Dalai Lama, and then Tibetan government in exile as well. So with this book, and so with this the reason His Holiness book about on the voice for voiceless also talks about the whole freedom struggle, and why it is important that the reincarnation of His Holiness has to be born in a free country, which means that it will not born under the Chinese, occupied Tibet. So with that, recently, I with my other colleagues, we have from Dharamsala, we have formed a Tibet Advocacy Alliance India, and so from March 16th to March, from March, I think from March, for two weeks when the Parliament session was going on, we carried, extensive advocacy and lobby with the Indian members of Parliament from both the upper house and the lower house, Lok Sabha and Rajya Sabha, and also from various different political parties. And then we, during that time, 46 Indian members of Parliament have signed a joint statement saying that His Holiness Dalai Lama and the Tibetan people has the right to decide and about the reincarnation of the 15th Dalai Lama. And then they recognize the historical, the legitimacy of the Tibetan people and His Holiness Dalai Lama. So, which is a very strong message from the Indian community, from the Indian members of Parliament. So, at like concluding, I would like to say that His Holiness always says that the whole reincarnation system, China has no rights to claim any of its authority on that. And so it will be His Holiness the Dalai Lama and the Tibetan people who will decide the reincarnation of the current His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Great to know that so many Indian MPs are supporting sovereignty of Tibetan people and
Yeah,
their right
I
to
mean,
live.
because when we were doing that advocacy, it was so encouraging we met almost, I think, 57, members of Parliament and the dignitaries, and everyone, talks about really, talks about high regards of His Holiness Dalai Lama Tibetan culture, and then their understanding of the whole Tibet issue was really, encouraging for Tibetans. So I was really great to see and to receive a huge support from the Indian members of Parliament. But then our objective of this alliance is that the members of Parliament to raise the issue of Tibet in the Indian Parliament, and so that Indian government can also takes a strong stand or policy with regards to Tibet and His Holiness the Dalai Lama.
Yes, let's hope that they come soon.
Yeah.
Like building the idea of Tibetan identity and resilience. Now, I would like to turn towards the broader Tibetan freedom and rights movement. Ma'am, how do you see the Tibetan freedom and rights movement evolving today, and what strategies are helping it stay impactful in fast-changing global political landscape, which is marked by wars between the nations as well as trade wars?
With the current the state of the whole Tibetan movement or struggle, I feel very, very positive about it. One, because Tibetans inside Tibet are still very strong, and their commitment in terms of protecting the Tibetan culture, Tibetan identity, their resilience. And their courage is something which really, really empowers me, which really, really encouraged me to work more for the Tibet cause. And so Tibetans inside Tibet, their determination is something which has really inspired and encouraged thousands of younger generations who are outside of Tibet. The second, since I'm based here in Dharamsala, most of the Tibetan NGOs are led by the younger generations. And when we see in Exile, even in India or in outside India, most of the Tibet freedom struggle, the Tibetan movement has been led by the younger generations. So I see that the younger generations, especially the younger generations, are coming forward and then understanding the whole geopolitical situation and then bringing the whole Tibet movement forward. So that is very encouraging, and I feel really, really hopeful for the future of Tibet, and seeing the younger generations active participation in the whole Tibet's freedom movement, and then their leadership of the whole Tibet movement right now is something that is very, very remarkable. And so thus I feel very positive about the whole Tibet issue. And we also receive many support from international. So my office, International Tibet Network, has almost more than 144 Tibet support groups all over the world, so which is extremely incredible. And so thus I feel very positive about how the Tibet movement is going forward right now.
Great to see young people leading from the front. I think this is why they are called as agents of change for tomorrow.
Definitely, definitely, definitely. Because right now the social media is playing an active role, significant role in the whole international world order, or the the whole understanding of the whole international community. And the younger generation is really, really brilliant on how to use the social media, and then their engagement, their ideas, their creative ideas and techniques of using creative social media, that is something I feel incredible, inspiring.
Yeah, like social media has created a world without borders. So we have
Definitely.
people teaching everywhere using social media.
Yes. Yep.
And China has this advantage that they have just created a wall there people can't interact outside.
Yes. Yep.
Digital divide. So now, then this brings me to the next question, which is related to China's expansionist policies. China's expansionist policies have manifested through territorial claims and aggressive posturing across Asia. Beyond its occupation of Tibet, China has ongoing border disputes with India, Taiwan, Japan, Vietnam, Philippines, Malaysia, Brunei, as well as growing tensions with Bhutan and even parts of Nepal. These moves often come hand in hand with military infrastructure, forced assimilation of local populations, cultural suppressions, environmental degradation, and resource extractions. So, like in India, there is this joke like "love knows no boundary." So, as China, my question is, how do you assess the long-term implications of China's expansionist policies, both for Tibet and for the broader region, and how do these policies intersect with environmental, cultural, and human rights concerns?
I think this is Shubham. This is really, really important question, because right now, at one point, we see that China's trade relation and economic support with the neighboring countries, or the the various developing countries, it seems massive. But the one policy of China's Belt and Road Initiative, and it has interacted with the so many countries in Latin America, in Africa as well, and then also in Southeast Asia, right? So but then with this the Belt and Road initiatives and China's expansionist policies, now people have understood the real nature of how this functions. And last year I was in Taiwan with a conference called China in the World, organized by Double Think Lab, and I have met so many researchers from Indonesia, Malaysia, from Latin America, talking about the Chinese influence in their countries, and then its impact on the the environment and human rights aspect. From the environment perspective, with this belt and road, suppose if we focus in Nepal, China is investing a lot in Nepal. They are helping to set up hospitals. They are helping to set up, the schools. But then, where does Nepal stand right now? What is Nepal's policy on Tibet? And for me, I think Nepal, after for the Tibetans, after Tibet, Nepal is the least free country for the Tibetans. Tibetans are still not allowed to protest, peacefully protest in Nepal. There has been restrictions about Tibetans to celebrate the birthday of His Holiness the Dalai Lama. So it really impacts the the influence and in Nepal's stand, and and they have a huge impact on that. And then with the Chinese infrastructure, because we have to understand the whole Himalaya belt, right? Yes, infrastructure is needed, but economic development or infrastructure is needed based on the needs of the the local people. And every geography is different from one place to another. Just because you built huge infrastructure in Beijing does not mean that it can sustain in the Himalaya belt, right? Because Himalaya is ecologically very unique and very sensitive with the climate change. So similarly, it applies in African countries. How China is impacting the rights of the workers in there, even in Latin America. Everyone has a huge concern on that. So right now we might say that China's influenced spreading all across, but then slowly people are understanding its impact and how much they are losing just to gain few economic benefits, which are not also sustainable as well. So I'm really glad that India has not signed the Belt and Road Initiative, because India understands the implications, the negative implications of this initiative, right? So thus very smartly India has not signed the Belt and Road Initiative, right? So I think slowly we would see, because we understand what China has done in Sri Lanka as well. So they would give you a loan, and then if you can't repay that loan, then they will come and take out own the port in Sri Lanka. So you lose your territory, control over your own land towards China. So I think everyone has to really understand that. And I think the whole international community is changing their view towards China, and they have their understanding of Chinese policy, especially also in Europe. They are getting clear understanding of China's real motive or risk of engaging to its relation with China.
Yes, and all over the world, they are pushing their debt policy to CC through BRI
Yeah.
and creating white elephant projects which are difficult to maintain for the host country.
Yes.
Yes. So my next question is when related to like it is related to like development also, and like people who are being displaced by China because of their mad development drive, which doesn't make any sense. So connected to these policies is often overlooked reality of displacement and forced assimilation within China's borders. Like if you see from Uyghurs in Turkestan to Mongols and Tibetans, many communities in China have faced displacement, surveillance, and attempts to erase their identities. They just settle Han people in order to do that. Tibetans in exile have frequently expressed solidarity with these groups, creating a global voice for the voiceless. So, what parallels do you see between Tibetan experience and other displaced communities within China? And how are Tibetans in exile contributing to broader movement for justice across these groups?
Yes, I mean, Shubham, China occupied Tibet, right? So they illegally occupied China, I mean Tibet. And then also with the case of Uyghur, the how their policy in terms of Uyghur, and then Inner Mongolia as well. So we the whole community also, the people from Hong Kong, and then people from Taiwan, we have built a very strong cross movement alliance. So we collaborate in many of our campaigns, and campaigns, and protest. There has been really active joint agreement on that, because everyone raised concern about the very in the Chinese policy, aggressive policies on their own respective regions. And then because recently and the China is very, very active in terms of transnational repression, meaning that, those people from their homeland, once they are, moved in outside, China tries to, silence the voices of people who are in diaspora, through pressuring their families back in Tibet, or back in Taiwan, or back in Hong Kong, or back in Uyghur as well. So we have formed a very strong cross movement alliance, and so we collaborate on many occasions as well. So I think this kind of, alliance building is really, really important, because I think, at the end, what we are, facing problem is only because of the Chinese government's policy, and only because of the Xi Jinping's aggressive policies, in terms of protecting the freedom, the rights, right to self-determination, the whole freedom of expression, religion, culture, you name it. So I see that, we have built a strong collaboration among the other, communities. So I think, this solidarity has, also lots of scope in future, and so our reach has been at the international level. So I think, it's also impact understanding, because recently the Chinese embassy in UK, they were trying to build the largest, the embassy in London as well. And during that time, the community, Tibetans, Uyghurs, Hong Kongers, Taiwanese, came together and then protest us. So that's also one example of how we collaborate and we build alliance in our movement.
Great to see how Tibetans in exile are carrying the thoughts of freedom and identity in remarkable ways and forming alliances with other communities who are the victim of Chinese aggression. So my next question is related to this, ma'am. So how do you view the global Tibetan diaspora's role in taking the freedom movement to the next level and further intensifying it? What success and challenge have you observed in mobilizing the international support for your just cause?
Um, the role of diaspora has been always been very has been like really, really important and significant, and so to speak about that, Tibetans are, based in almost 30 different countries in the world. And then we have our own exile government here in Dharamsala. Then we have, 7 offices of Tibet in various countries, in Taiwan, in Japan, in Europe, and in the US as well. So, and then the Tibetans in diaspora has a very strong connection of the communities. We have, Tibetan Communities Association in Minnesota, in Canada, in Europe as well. So our strong and our connection among us is really, really strong. And so then, we have also, political NGOs, Tibetan, 2 of the largest, I think 3 of the largest, political Tibetan NGOs are the Students for Free Tibet, and then Tibetan Women's Association, Tibetan Youth Congress. So all of them, have their regional chapters at the various, various countries as well. But then the challenge right now is that right now, unfortunately, so much is going on in the international community. And when we see the war in Ukraine, and then the war in, the Palestine, the Israel-Palestine conflict, so everywhere, I mean, there is so much happening. And so I think, so international community is right now, I feel that, has lots of, energy to be drawn towards, the issues on that. But then, I feel that, sorry, with the social media, the our reach out to the, international media, we are trying our best. But the challenge, as I said, that, right now the world is, I would say, going crazy. Everywhere, there is something or
Yes.
other, unfortunate things happening. and so how much the one person can take on that. But then our consistency, and then our the continuous movement and continuous struggle and continuous effort of protecting the whole Tibet's rights for self-determination, culture, language, that is also going very strong at the same time as well. So there has been also attention from international media and then Indian media as well. But I see scope that Indian media and then international media still has lots of opportunities to focus on the issue of Tibet, because right now you might have also, Shubham, seen that there is one very um, sensitive and sad situation happening with the Tibetan community. Is that recently a Tibetan religious leader, Tuku Hunga Doje, so we also said Hunga Rinpoche, and he was born in Tibet, and he was in Tibet, and then he has been contributing a lot for the international community, because he has lots of religious followers from all over the world, also from Southeast Asia as well. But then he he had to escape to Vietnam in last year around September to 2024, because the Chinese were not happy with the Hunga Rinpoche has opened monasteries, schools, and the nunneries and hospitals for the Tibetan community in Tibet, in Golok, in Amdo. But then Chinese were not happy with that, and then he felt threatened, and he did not feel secure, and he escaped to Vietnam. And then there was lots of story, and then on 28th of April, he is suddenly passed away. And during that time we have information and saying that the Vietnamese police, and there could be Chinese agents involved in that. They arrested him, and now the group of Tibetans from Tibet, along with any other Chinese agents, they have come to Vietnam to receive the body, but that is not happening. And so it has been covered in a few Indian media, and I think we are hoping to have more focus from the international media, because the contribution of this Rinpoche has been immense, and he has followers all over the world. So we are asking Vietnamese government to investigate on the cost of his death and who arrested him. And then we are asking for transparency in that. And then we are also asking return of his body to his family, so that the family can carry out the Tibetan traditional ritual. So all of these are happening right now, and the Tibetan community, and they are very much actively involved. And tonight here in Dharamsala we have candlelight vigil in remembrance of the Rinpoche as well. So we are hoping that there has been two press conferences in Dharamsala. Hindustan Times, the Tribune from India, they covered on that, and we are hoping that maybe the big international also media covers on that. And Human Rights Watch also yesterday released a report regarding on that.
In India, what's happening is there is democratization of content is happening. So like independent media platforms are emerging, and they covered these kinds of news more extensively. Like instead of traditional media, they're like more concerned about what's going in Tibet, Sri Lanka, or any other parts of the world, since they have more freedom, more authority to do so because they're independent. You don't have to take permission from the higher authorities to cover any event.
Yeah, definitely. I think nowadays, the content creators, the really good ones, uh, the good content creators, and have their own social media platforms like YouTube's and Facebook's. So their coverage has been really, really immense, and I'm really impressed of that. And I hope that some of these good, sensible, good, the content creators would cover on that as well. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Ma'am, this brings us to our last question. Finally, at the institutional level, the Tibetan Parliament in Exile has played a central role in preserving democratic governance and political representation for Tibetans. And Tibetan Parliament in Exile, as I have seen and read about them, they're very impressed with India's democratic process and want to replicate the same in Tibet also. So it has served as both a democratic symbol and a practical legislative body for Tibetans all over the world. Its work is key in maintaining political coherence and engaging with international institutions, as you have mentioned. So, my question is, what is the current focus of the Tibetan Parliament in exile, and how does it navigate the challenge of representing Tibetans in exile while continuing to press for meaningful full international engagements in this very unpeaceful world? To humor, as you said.
Yeah, I think the Tibetan Parliament plays a critical role in terms of democratization of the whole Tibetan community in exile, because it also has a connection with the more than 4 million Tibetans or 5 million Tibetans who are back in Tibet, because we don't have as compared to India, the here in exile we don't have a political parties. So members of parliaments are selected based on the regions in Tibet. So we have three major province. And so based on that province, we have representative from that region, Wizang, Kham, and Amdo. And then Buddhism is a very integral part of a whole Tibetan culture and identity and history as well. So we have a representative from the religious sects, and then since we have large number of Tibetans migrated to west, so we have also representative representing Australasia, and then Europe, and then Central America, so that's there. So that wise, it kind of mm, represent the whole Tibetans inside Tibet and then outside Tibet as well. And then Tibetan the role and the responsibility of Tibetan Parliament is it functions as to the other countries, but then they also take a very active role in terms of building connection with other members of parliament from the different countries. Suppose here in India, the Tibetan Parliament in exile, they do have a meeting with the Indian members of parliament. They do advocate on the coast of Tibet with the Indian members of parliament. And then there is also a Indian members of parliamentary support for Tibet group as well. And then there are others. And then second, the members of parliament also, they travel to abroad in Europe, in the US, in Canada, in other countries to meet with the the exiled communities over there, try to understand their situation, and if there is anything that the Tibetan community or the Tibetan government in exile has to fulfill their demands, so they will meet and interact with them and then bring their issues during the parliament sessions. And during that time, they also built a strong relation with the countries that are allied with the whole Tibet community, and meet the delegations and then members of parliament, and then have the strong discussions on how to support each other. And then the members of parliament also, their role is to look after the welfare of the Tibetans here in exile in terms of education, health, the social services, and then they bring that issues in the parliament, and then setting up the budget and whether to pass the ministries. We call it kashak. So ministries, ministries budget and everything, and so they also functions as check and balance of the government as well, and the questioned government's policies. So I think it's their representation is really, really important. And nowadays we also say that younger generations are coming up in the Tibetan Parliament, and which the many of the younger generations, other Tibetan communities feel really positive because seeing their active understanding, because they got modern education, so they experience. So we also have a high expectation of their contribution for the whole freedom struggle and the welfare of the whole Tibetan community.
Great to know that how with limited resources, Tibetan Parliamentary Exile is working so efficiently and contributing to the cause of Tibet and its people. Its function is similar to Indian Parliament minus political parties.
Yeah. Yeah, so but then we don't have a political party, so that's, I think, how do I say, it's a very unique. And so we also said that there are many exile communities, but then Tibetan exile community, Tibetan exile government, Tibetan exile parliament, the whole school system, everything is very unique as compared to the other communities as well. So but at the end, we are in exile because of the political issue, because of the Chinese occupation of Tibet. So for me, that is my more main, the objective in to resolve the issue of Tibet, so that we get freedom, and then we get right to self-determination, and we own our own land, and then one day we get to go back and then stay away and not allow the China to control us, and then have our own independent nation. So that's my lifetime hope and goal as well.
May that dawn of freedom come at the earliest.
Yeah,
It's so inspiring, ma'am. Your journey has been so inspiring.
thank
Thanks
you.
a lot, ma'am. Thanks a lot, ma'am, for joining us today and sharing such rich insights drawn from your scholarship, advocacy, and lived experience. Like it has been like absolute honor to have you today.
Thank you so much, Shubham. Thank you.